Today we're going to be on lesson 10, and I'm just going to give you a heads up. This is a challenging lesson, so strap on those thinking caps and let's get started. Okay, the application problem is on page 181, if you will turn there. And I would encourage you to go ahead and try this by yourself before you watch. Okay, but the application problem says Bridget has $240. She spent 3/5 of her money and saved the rest. How much more money did she spend than save? Okay, you should be able to do this problem. Again, with a tape, it's especially helpful. We have fifths on our tape, and the total is $240. It says she spent 3/5 of her money, so I'm going to label that, and saved the rest, which was 2/5 of her money. And then it says, how much more did she spend than she saved? Okay, well, if you have $240 divided into 5 boxes, you might not be able to do that in your head, so let's just do that off to the side. 5 goes into 24 4 times. 5 goes into 48 times. So 48 goes in every box. Okay, now you could figure out the total of what she spent, the total of what she saved, and subtract to say how much more she spent than saved. But a shortcut would be to just look at that tape. 3 boxes is how much she spent, and 2 boxes is how much she saved. So how much more did she spend than save? Well, 1 box more. So 1 box is $48. So there's a shortcut for you. She spent $48 more than she saved. Okay, done with that. That was a nice shortcut. Okay, let me give you a heads up on what we're doing today before we turn to the problem set. I'm just going to show you one brief example of what we'll be looking at. I want you to look at this tape for a second. That looks a little funny, okay? But part of today's lessons is writing an expression for a phrase or for a given tape, okay? Because it's really important for you guys to be able to match the English language with our math language. Okay, so if you look at this tape, start with what is labeled, what you know. I know the total. Okay, I can see the total is 9 plus 11, which is 20, but I'm just going to think of it as 9 plus 11. Now, when they give us something like this with a plus sign, we're going to call it a sum. That's the sum of 9 and 11. Okay, that's what I know, the sum of 9 and 11. So I'm going to write that first of all. The sum of 9 and 11. Okay, now what am I looking for? Well, notice the tape is split into fourths, and I'm looking for 3/4. Okay, so this expression I want to write is 3/4 of the sum of 9 and 11. Okay, or notice they wrote the 3/4 in word form, or this way is fine. 3/4 of the sum of 9 and 11 describes that tape. Okay, that's part of what we're doing today. All right, so here we go. Everybody turn the page. Get ready for a challenge, but we can do this. Okay, page 183 is where we'll be starting. And to begin, you are supposed to write expressions to match the diagrams and then evaluate. Evaluate just means to solve or find the answer. Okay, so let's look at this first one. It's very similar to the one that I just did with you. Okay, I'm looking for, well, first of all, look at what I know. I know the total is the sum of 8 and 9. And actually, it doesn't ask us to write this in word form. That's interesting. We just need to write an expression. Okay, so the sum of 8 and 9, and I'm supposed to find what part of it? Well, notice thirds. I'm supposed to find 1/3 of the sum of 8 and 9. 1/3 of the sum of 8 and 9. Notice when I said of, I put a times sign. Okay? Well, remember, order of operations, I always do what's in parentheses first. So I'm looking for 1/3 of 17, which is 17/3. 3 goes into 17 5 times with 2 left over. So 5 2/3 would be your answer. Okay, let's look at the next one. This time, what I know is not the total, but it's one of the parts. Okay, so the part that I see is the sum of 3/5 and a half. But I'm supposed to find the total. How would I find the total? Well, I would have to take this part that I know and multiply it by 3. So to find that total, the first thing we'll do is add to find what goes in one box and then multiply by 3 to get the total tape. Okay, so a little bit of review here. We have to add two fractions that are unlike. Okay, this is fifths and this is halves. Okay, so we want to make them alike. So 3/5, notice if we have fifths and halves, tenths would be our common denominator. I'd multiply this one times 2/2 and this one times 5/5. So this would become 6/10 and this would become 5/10. So I need to do 3 times 11/10. Okay, 3 times 11/10, which is 33/10, which is 3 whole and 3/10 would be my total on the tape. Okay, it's a lot of math in this lesson. Math that you should know, but it's going to be a good review. Okay, now they give it to us in word form, and we're supposed to write the expression and then evaluate. All right, this says 1/6 the sum of 16 and 20. Okay, when you see the sum of, that might help you, okay? The sum of, you need to have parentheses. If it's a sum, you're adding. So we want 1/6 times 16 and 20. Okay, well, 16 and 20 is 36. So that's 36/6, which is 6 whole. Okay, so that math was a little easier. Okay, at any point, I would encourage you to pause and try it before you watch. Subtract 5 from something. When you subtract 5 from something, I'm taking 5 away from something. Okay? Taking 5 away from 1/3 of 23. 1/3 of 23. Okay, that's what I'm going to focus on first, and then subtract 5. Well, this would be 23/3 minus 5. Well, how much is, no, I wrote that wrong. How much is 23/3? Well, 3 goes into 23 7 times, which is 21. So that's 2 left over. So 7 2/3 take away 5 would be 2 2/3. So there's our answer there. All right, let's go on to the next. 3 times as much as the sum of, okay, again, the sum of, parentheses with a plus sign, 3 times that. 3 times 3/4 and 2/6. Okay, well, again, I have to add two fractions with an unlike denominator. Okay, but we're 5th grade. We can do this. Okay, you can multiply this one by 6/6 and 4/4 if you want to. You might also notice that I could make both of them be 12ths and use some smaller numbers. So if I multiply this by 3/3, I would get 9/12ths. And this one by 2/2, I would get 4/12ths. So my numbers are a little smaller there. So I have 3 times 13/12ths. Okay, well, let's look at that a second. 3 times 13/12ths. I could simplify something first. 3/12ths is 1/4. Okay, if I divide both of these by 3, 3 divided by 3 is 1. 12 divided by 3 is 4. So I've simplified first. Now on the top, I just have 1 times 13. which is 13. In the denominator, I have 4. 13/4 would be 3 whole and 1/4. All right. Next one. 2/5 of the product of 5/6 and 42. Whenever you see that of, it's multiplication. 2/5 of the product of, okay, so that means I'm multiplying again right here. 5/6 times 42. Okay, well, if I look in here, I'm going to save myself a little writing. Notice that I can simplify this first. 6 goes into 42 7 times. Okay, so in the parentheses, I really just have 5 times 7. So 2/5 times 5 times 7 is 35. Okay, now look at here. I could simplify 5 into 35. 5 into 35 goes 7 times. So my final answer will be 2 times 7, which is 14. All right, that one was not too bad. Let's look at this one. 8 copies of, so that's 8 times, the sum of, okay, so I'm adding something, the sum of 4/3 and 2 more. Okay, so I'm adding 4/3 and 2. That's a plus sign. 4/3 and 2. Okay, well, if I'm going to add this, 4/3 is equal to what? 4/3 is 1 and 1/3. That might make that easier to add for you. So 8 times, this would be 3 whole and 1/3. I guess I don't really have to write that in parentheses. So 8 times 3 and 1/3. Okay, well, there's a couple ways that you could multiply that. You could make this improper if you wanted to. Okay, so if you did that, 3 and 1/3 is 10/3. So if you have 8 times 10/3, that's 80/3. Okay, and then you could divide that out to get your final answer. 3 into 80. Oh, that's not right. Would be 26 2/3. All right, last one on this page. I hope you're hanging in there. I know this is hard. I know it is. Just hang in there. 4 times as much as 1/3 of 8. Okay, 4 times as much as 1/3 of 8. Remember, of is multiplying. So 1/3 of 8. Okay, let's do that part first. Since it's all multiplication, it actually doesn't matter which order you do the multiplication in. I will tell you that. So you could do the 4 times 8 first if you want to. Okay, when it's all multiplying, you can multiply in any order. Okay, but if I just leave it like this is 8/3. And notice you're still doing, it's going to be 32/3. Okay, 3 goes into 32 10 times with 2 left over. So it's 10 2/3. All right, that was challenging. Let's take a look at the back. This is a very long problem set too, by the way. So brace yourselves. We got this. Circle the expressions that give the same product as 4/5 times 7. Okay, notice that 4/5 times 7, 4 times 7 is 28. This would be 28/5. Okay, so I'm looking for anything here that equals 28/5. Now, my book, there's not a very good separation right here. Those are 2 separate problems. Okay, I'm looking for anything that's 28/5. And if I just, my eye just goes down here because I can notice, wait a minute, 28/5. Well, that's right. That's the same. So I'm going to circle that one. This one is 28/5. I'm going to circle that one. This one looks weird, but 4 divided by, remember divided by is like a fraction bar. 4 divided by 5 times 7 is 35. Well, that's not the same. If I do this, 28 divided by 5, well, yeah, that's the same. That works. Over here, 7 divided by 5. Oh, well, 7 divided by 5 would be like this. Times 4. Oh, look at that. That would actually be 28/5 also. That's kind of weird. I hadn't noticed that one before. And this one, 4 divided by 7 times 5 is 35. Not that one. Okay. I think we got it. Okay, so let's move on to the next one. That's all you do on that one. Okay. Number 4. This one's interesting, okay? You have to compare these two with less than or greater than to make a true number sense without calculating. Explain your thinking, okay? So get this. So save yourself some work. You're going to use your smarts here. Over here, I have 3 copies of 2/3. Over here, I kind of see 2 parts here. But notice this is 4 copies of 2/3, and then I add something else to it. Well, 4 copies of 2/3 is more than 3 copies of 2/3, so I know that side's greater without doing the math. Okay? Kind of nice. Let's look at this one. I have, these two are the same, 5 copies of 3/4. But then I take whatever that's equal to, and over here I multiply by 2/5. Over here I multiply by 2/7. So which one am I multiplying more? Okay, because that side will be more. Well, is 2/5 more or 2/7 more? Well, 5ths are bigger than 7ths, so this side is more. Okay. This one looks a little strange. This is how I would do this one. Now, I would do a little calculating on this one. I would say this is improper. I know it's a little bit more than 1 whole. So this is about 4, okay? And this is about 4 times 3. So this side is about 12. So I'm just doing a little estimating on this one. That's how I would do it. Over here, this is 9. And then I add, this is a little more than 1 whole. So this side is about equal to 10. So this side is more. That's how I would do that one. Okay, we are on the last page. And this one, out of nowhere, we're doing some line plots. But I'm practicing those expressions. Okay, Colette bought milk for herself each month and recorded the amount in the table below. For A through C, write an expression that records the calculation desired, then solve to find the missing data in the table. Okay, so this says she bought 1/4 of July's total in June. Okay, so notice June is missing. I got to fill that in. But she bought 1/4 of July's total. So 1/4 of July is 1/4 of 2, which would be 2/4. Which if you simplify is a 1/2 gallon of milk. So I'm going to fill that in over here. 1/2 gallon. Okay. She bought 3/4 as much in September. Notice that one's missing. 3/4 as much in September as she did in January and July combined. So 3/4 as much as, we got to combine January and July. Well, January is 3 gallons. July is 2 gallons. So 3 plus 2 is 5. I'll write that down so you have it. So 3/4 of 5, okay, which is 15/4. And let's just make that a mixed number. 4 goes into 15 3 times with 3 left over. So 3 3/4 gallons of milk. That's a lot for one person. And that was in September. 3 3/4. Okay. Then in letter C, it says in April, okay, that's our last missing one, she bought 1/2 gallon less than, okay, so I'm taking 1/2 gallon away from something. less than twice as much as she bought in August. Well, twice as much means 2 times. So 2 times August, 2 times 1 is just 2. So 2 minus a half would be 1.5. Okay, now my chart's done. Notice the next one says display the data from the table in a line plot. Okay, so a line plot, I'm going to draw a number line. And then I look at my numbers and decide where to start and stop my line plot with. So I'll start with 0. And notice my highest number on there is 3 3/4. So I'm going to do my number line up to 4. So let's say 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. And notice most of these fractions are fourths. There might be some halves, but let's just do fourths down here on my number line. Okay, so notice I'll cut it in half and then in half again. I have fourths. And half again. Fourths. Do that the same all the way down the number line. Okay, and then I just start. 3 whole, I put an X above the 3. Check it off. 2 whole, I put an X above the 2. 1 1/4. So here's 1 whole and 1/4 would be here. 1 1/2. So here's 1 whole, 1/4, 1/2 is right in the middle. Check. 7/4. What is 7/4? Well, 4 goes into 7 one time with 3 left over. So that's 1 3/4. So 1 whole, 1/4, 2/4, 3/4. Put an X here. Okay, a half would be between 0 and 1, right? So that's right here. 2 whole. Oh, I finally got a second X there. 1 whole. 3 3/4. So 3 whole, 1/4, 2/4, 3/4. There. And 1/4 would be down here. All right. Practicing line plots. The very last thing, how many gallons of milk did Colette buy from January to October? So January to October, I have to add all those numbers. Okay, well, here's my advice. I would go through and add all the whole numbers first, okay? So 3 and 2 is 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, plus 3 is 14. Okay, so 14 whole. So I'm going to write that down. Now I'm going to go through and look at my fractions. Most of these are in fourths, okay? But we can let's just do the fourths, okay? 1/4. Then 3/4 is 4/4. Then 3 more is 7/4. And 1 more is 8/4. So 8/4. Well, that's 2 whole, right? Make a note there. Okay, and then I just had some halves. So let's go through 1/2, 1/2, which is a whole, and that's it. A half and a half is a whole. So if I add that up, 14, 15, 16, 17. So she bought 17 gallons of milk. All right. That's it for today. I know that was very long, okay? But hang in there and just try that homework. We'll see you soon.